Dana, if someone met you earlier in your journey, what would they have seen and what wouldn't they have seen? That time was happening beneath the surface that now you're just sharing it with everyone.
People would have seen just a very successful, confident, put together woman, which I was.
In your experience, what happens to identity when achievement, validation, and certainty get stripped away and you just start really going out?
Well, you have to be ready to be vulnerable and you have to be ready to fail. It's part of the process. And the more that you spend time trying to force something to work, the more time you're taking away from something that could be your true passion.
Right now, when you're selling real estate, that's the vehicle you're on the highway of where it is you want to go. And sometimes we just have to get into a different vehicle, but we don't really get off the highway.
I knew that my purpose, like your sole purpose, is more than just helping people find their dream home.
This is the Authentic Edge podcast. Real conversations with real leaders who've dropped the mask, faced the truth, and found growth that actually fits. I'm Mike Seacord, and every episode we pull back the curtain on what it takes to lead, live, and grow with authenticity. Because here, authenticity always wins. Welcome to the Authentic Edge podcast. Today, I am super excited. I've got Dana Flanagan on today. She's a guest of ours you're going to be blown away. I just spent some time with her right now and she's kind of giving me her backstory and where she's at. And I'm like, how are there enough time in the day for what you're doing? And when you hear her story and where she's at, you're gonna be like, oh, I need to model after this person because there's plenty of time the way she's doing it. So today's guest is Dana Flanagan. She's a powerful voice in leadership, resilience, personal growth. Dana helps people reconnect to who they really are, not just who they are performing as. This conversation that we're going to talk about today, this goes beyond surface level, guys. We're going to be deep diving into what it actually takes to live and to lead from truth and not pressure. So Dana just doesn't talk about identity. She lived the unraveling and really just focus on rebuilding her life and everything that comes with it to the level that she's at. And you're going to hear some great stuff in her story. And if you've ever felt successful on paper, but kind of disconnected on the inside, this episode's for you. So Dana, welcome to the podcast. Welcome to the community. I hope lots of people can get a lot from you. I just want to jump right into a question real quick because everyone's time is valuable and you just got back from Hawaii and you got all kinds of crazy things going on and we're wrapping up the week here. But Dana, if someone met you earlier in your journey, what would they have seen and what wouldn't they have seen that now is, at that time was happening beneath the surface that now you're just sharing it with everyone?
Yeah, thank you so much for that amazing introduction. It's a pleasure to be here. So it's funny. I was in real estate for so long as a top producing real estate agent, very, very good at it, number one top agent, all the things. And I loved what I did. I truly, truly loved what I did. But there came a point where I was on this hamster wheel that I felt I couldn't get off of. And a lot of that comes with performing, right? I'm the number one agent in town. I have to maintain that persona, the pressure to always be doing more as, more things, more agents come into the business, or as you get older, new technology comes out and you have more pressures from home or whatever it may be. I think that people would have seen just a very successful, confident, put together woman, which I was, and I still am. However, I knew inside that I had to do something more. Like this can't be all that I do forever. You don't see real estate agents retiring, right? They typically just fall out of the business and they're either burnt out or they just stop selling houses for whatever reason. Like they don't plan to retire typically. So I kept thinking, well, gosh, if I just had a little bit more time to explore this other opportunity or to maybe start another piece of my business. But what happens is you're on that hamster wheel, and any realtor can relate to me, especially if you have a lot of business. That phone rings, it's like an addiction. That phone rings, another buyer, another lead comes in, you got to drop what you're doing and you've got to call that person back. And it does become almost an addiction. where for me, it was, that was my drug, right? I've never done drugs or anything like that in my life.
Yeah.
That was my drug. When I went on a listing appointment and I got the listing, it was like a high. And I loved it, but at what expense? Because then you would have those lows too of like, okay, I haven't, had a new listing in a month and I'm really good at managing the ups and downs. Long term, where was I going with this? I just knew that there had to be more out there. And I knew that my purpose, like your sole purpose, is more than just helping people find their dream home. So that's where this all started.
So if I heard you correct, what a great revelation you had. But you kind of look at it like you had a realization that it was costing you really deeper below your what you thought was your purpose to what it actually is. Is that kind of, did I hear that
Right.
correct? So what now through that process and what you notice it costs, what is it you're going, I'm not going to pay that price anymore. It just it costs this. I'm going to go change this. And what are you able to
Sure.
do now by going deeper?
Well, I think a lot of people can relate to this, whether it's business or whether it's like a marriage or a friendship or a job that they're in. It's, I've been divorced. I was married for 14 years and I chose to end my marriage. And that is the same type of thing. When something's not working for you anymore, you have to take that very scary risk of the unknown in order to reap the rewards on the other side. And so, if anybody's ever been divorced, and we know half of the population has, that I could have stayed and I could have just been like, things are fine, whatever, right? But knew that this wasn't working for me anymore. And I knew that I honestly just felt like I was dragging an anchor, to be honest with you.
Hmm.
So I made that decision. And honestly, it was one of the best decisions that I made. And now I have my dream guy. Right. So that you open the door for other things to come into your life. And my fiance and I have been engaged. We've been together for 8 years and it's been wonderful. And I never knew that there were guys out there like him. So if you can relate to this on a marriage standpoint, on a relationship standpoint, sometimes you just outgrow your current situation, and that's
Hmm.
okay. And I know, that ending a marriage is a hard thing because there's sometimes I don't have kids, but there's kids involved and there's this persona to keep up and you've made this commitment at the altar, right?
Hmm.
But you just have to make a decision that this is not currently working for me anymore. And that ability or that pressure to perform, so to speak, is you have to sort of put that on the back burner and what is really good for me at this current point in my life. And realistically, how can I move forward in my life if I have these things that are holding me back? So I'll say the same thing with business. I still do real estate in some capacity. I just don't sell houses anymore. I coach real estate agents, I coach individuals, and I also at a company where I attract agents to the company and I participate in a revenue share program. So I'm not removed from the real estate world. I'm just
Hmm.
not on the hamster wheel anymore. And I think there's a sigh of relief that comes with that when you're getting passive income and you have repeatable income coming in versus having to hustle for the income. So it was always the hustle for the income, the reward, the hustle for the income, the reward. And
Hmm.
at some point, I just wanted to get off that hamster wheel. So what actually kind of forced me to do that was we were in a pretty horrific car accident where our car slid on ice and we hit a guardrail in such a way that our car caught fire and we were passed out by the airbags. And it was at nighttime on a dark country road. And I think maybe we were in the car for maybe 5 or 6 minutes while it was burning. And I woke up to people screaming to get out of the car. And our car exploded 10 seconds after we got out. So it like gives me chills still to this day.
Hmm.
Because had the doors not been able to be opened, had one of us been hurt, thank God we weren't, but that could have ended very differently, right?
Hmm.
So as I went home that night, your home is in the same place when you leave it, right? When you come back, it's the same way you left it. Your dishes are in the sink, your mail's on the counter, your dogs are excited to see. That was my revelation when I walked in. My dogs were like, "Oh, they're home." And not knowing what we had gone through that day. And so life can change in an instant. And I
Hmm.
didn't want to wait any longer. I've seen far too many friends that are 20, 30 years older than me pass away from Alzheimer's and things like that when they've made a ton of money their whole life and they just
Hmm.
wanted to travel the world and they were never able to do that. So I knew that I had to take a step back from what I was doing to be able to move forward. So our
Yeah.
dream was to live on a lake in the South, and that's what we did. We moved, and it took us a couple of years to kind of figure out like, but we knew we wanted to do that. And I started getting into coaching and I started building my brand. And so now I coach people, mostly women. My program is called Burnout to Brilliance, and I coach midlifers on how to take the first steps towards making that pivot, whatever it is that they want to do. I also coach high achieving business women because there's always that underlying something
Yeah.
that's missing, something that they need help with. A lot of times it's confidence. It's confidence to take that next step. It's confidence to put themselves out there, to start that business, to leave their husband, whatever it is.
Hmm.
It's really been fulfilling to me because I've been there and I did it. And there's so many other people that are struggling ability to perform, right?
Yeah.
So it's been absolutely wonderful and it's scary.
It is. It is, but that's great. Congratulations. I heard something in you and I'm sure you deal with this with your clients as well. And it's part of that I went through in my journey was I spent a lot of time in that falsehood that I needed to know what I wanted next to make the movement. And it kind of
Mhm.
paralyzes you at times where you're like, I don't really know what it is I want. And I hear that a lot of time with people that I'm working with. And it's like, what really worked for me and what seemed to work for you is you got really clear with, okay, I don't want this anymore. And when you go, I don't want this, you
Mhm.
start moving away from this. And as you move away from this, you get clarity of all the things out there that you want. And, with real estate sales, I tell people so often is right now when you're selling real estate, that's the vehicle you're on the highway of where it is you want to go. And sometimes we just have to get into a different vehicle, but we don't really get off the highway. And like you're just a different
Mhm.
vehicle on the road with all this growth and all this opportunity that you're in. And that's what I want people to look at going, you don't always need something new. You just need a different car sometimes to go in. So,
Right.
when you look at
Right.
this and you look at the shift that you were talked about making, you know, so many leaders define themselves by what they are currently doing. In your experience, what happens to identity when achievement, validation, and certainty get stripped away and you just start really going out to it? What happened to your identity when you stripped that all away and you just went out?
Well, you have to be ready to be vulnerable and you have to be ready to fail. And I call it failing forward. It's part of the process. There were other things that I sort of got into that I was like, oh, well, maybe I'm going to go do this now. And then I realized I'm like, I don't really like this. I don't want to stay here for an extended amount of time, but I put so much money into it and I put so much time into it. And you got to kind of justify like why you're there. When you're justifying things, it's not for you. So
Hmm.
you just cut the losses and move on. It's a learning experience, it's part of the process. And the more that you spend time trying to force something to work, the more time you're taking away from something that could be your true passion. So trust me, I've had my fair share of failures and I've
Hmm.
lost a lot of money in the process. And there have been people that haven't been that good to me, right? Where, I thought their intentions were good and they really weren't. But I've learned a lot along the way. And I think, and I'm still in my love of real estate in one way, shape, or form. So I've elevated my expertise because I don't want to give up all that expertise and that knowledge that I've had all those years. How do I help other people that are just starting in real estate? How do I help other agents develop themselves? How do I help other people that are stuck in their current situation, whatever that may be, that
Hmm.
are too afraid to take the next step? Their fear and their complacency has been keeping them stuck their whole life, most likely. And so learning how to take those baby steps for some people and be able to, it can be, honestly, it can be the simplest thing as having the confidence to post their first video on social media. That's ideal a lot with that. It's small steps where they know they need to post to attract people to their business. They know they need to get visibility. They know they need to put themselves out there, but they're too afraid to do that. So they sit there paralyzed and then they wonder why they have no income. I deal with that a lot. And so it's baby steps to be able to feel comfortable with each step in the process to move you forward in whatever it is that you're trying to do. So I work with people on a really compact like schedule, so to speak, where we're just taking it day by day. and
Hmm.
we're celebrating really small wins.
That's
And that's
awesome.
what I love because sometimes it's the littlest things. Like one of the girls that I know, she went to her first networking event last night and she was really nervous to go in by herself. It was her first time. I've been to thousands of networking events. It's what I do. But
Mhm.
for her, it was her first one. She called me after and she's like, that was so cool. Everybody was so nice and
Yeah.
everybody welcomed me. And I said, well, that's, that no one's going to be mean really at a networking event. But she's like, I don't know why I'm so emotional. I'm crying right now. Like she was so emotional. And like, that's the kind of calls that I love because she stepped out of her comfort zone. She put herself into a new situation out of the box that she's been keeping herself in for so long.
Hmm.
And she got different exposure than what she's been used to her whole life. And
Yeah.
that lit a fire under her that she's never felt. And that is, to me, it's those wins and those small but very big shifts in your business and your life that change everything.
Yeah. You just stretched her and she'll never go back because of the
Yeah.
way you've stretched her. And this question, what you basically said really leads right into this question that I had started here. And I was, when you look at what you just said about finding yourself and confidence, what's the biggest lie people believe about finding themselves? And what does it actually require to rebuild the identity in a grounded way so they're confident and then go off and they can be really, really them in a real way?
Well, the first thing that I find is excuses they've been telling themselves their whole life. Excuses, excuses, excuses. And I don't have any excuses. You'll never hear me say, like, oh, that was too hard. I'm sick, so I can't join the Zoom today. Like, you'll never hear me say that. I will push through no matter what. And excuses have been those small excuses that you've been telling yourself have been slowly chipping away at your confidence and putting you in a box so that you don't think you're able to move forward. So first and foremost, it's changing your mindset in order to be able to achieve, dream, and put yourself into a different situation. Successful people don't talk negatively. They don't hate on other people. They're not jealous. And they always they understand how to shift their mindset and how to vibrate on a high level. You'll find that they do the same things, right? A lot of successful people work out every day. They not only exercise their body, but they exercise their mind. They practice gratitude. They know how to shift the narrative to, even when it's something unpleasant that happens, how to shift it into like, well, what did that just teach me? What did I learn? Instead of going into the whole spiral of, my life sucks and blah, all the things that they tell themselves.
Mhm.
So I think, really like figuring out, finding your identity of like, who are you at the core when not your kids, not your husband, not what your neighbors think you are. And one of the things I'll tell you is social media has a really, as much as I love social media and I coach on it and I speak on it a lot, social media has, everybody's heard of imposter syndrome. That's a real thing. And
Mhm.
people see everyone else's highlight reel and they think that they need to be like that person or they need to be a little bit more like their successful friend, or they feel like they don't know how to ever get there, so they just stay stuck where they are and they don't try because they don't want to fail. So I think it's really like, who are you? Like, what makes you happy? If you could get paid to do anything, right? And nothing is off limits. If you could get paid to do XYZ, what would that be? Or if you could do something that you love and money wasn't an issue, what would that be? So it's funny because I'll get all sorts of different answers, right?
Mhm.
And it's like, okay, well, let's start with small baby steps there because you can't get here without doing this. And really just being really true to who you are at this
Mhm.
particular stage of your life. Not 10 years ago, not 20 years ago, because we're not the same people that we were 10 or 20 years ago. And understanding that it's okay to feel the way that you're feeling if you feel unfulfilled, if you feel lost in your marriage, if your friends don't support you anymore, it's okay. If
Yeah.
your, brother or sister isn't the nicest to you, it's okay. Like there are people that we need to just remove from our life, or we need to put them in their own box and not let them into too much if they're toxic to us.
Mhm.
So I think it's always reevaluating, like, who am I and what do I want? And is this serving me
Yeah.
anymore?
That's awesome. Just getting clarity around that is so big. So, for someone listening right now who feels successful on the outside, but kind of empty, disconnected on the inside, what's one honest question they need to ask themselves to start coming back to their authentic home, their authentic self, based on what you've been through?
I would always go back to like, who am I now? What do I want? What drives me? Like, what excites me? What makes me happy? And really think about like, if money wasn't an issue and I could do whatever I wanted, what would that be? And what does that look like to you? And how do you turn that into something that you can monetize? If we're talking career, we're talking job, we're talking purpose. Some people want to volunteer, and that's totally like money. Not everybody comes to me needing money. We have people
Hmm.
that just feel they can, I can have very wealthy people come to me that are just lost. Like they just feel like they don't have any true friends. They don't feel like they have any real connection with people. So, really just finding out like getting really real with yourself and what is serving me, what is not serving me, what can I do, what can I remove from my life today, what should I remove from my life, what should I be doing that I'm not currently doing. And these can be baby steps. Like with some people, they're like, I know I should be exercising but I don't. Okay, so how do we implement that into your everyday schedule? I know I should be journaling for 15 minutes a day. Okay, how do we implement that? But I'm too busy. There's always an excuse, right? So
Yeah.
getting real with yourself and taking full responsibility for everything that's happening to you. No matter what, it's all up to you. You have the power to change your life. And if you change your thoughts, you change your life. That's
Oh, that is such a great thing. And I want people to rewind that little thing about what she said right there and hear that if you change your thoughts, you change everything. I always say to people, you said it earlier about finding something that excites them. If you could do, and I'm always asking people like, how can you monetize a feeling?
mm,
A lot of times people say to me, well, you can't monetize a feeling. I'm like, well, let me walk you through things because I think the feeling is the linchpin in the middle. Your programming leads to the way you think,
mhm,
and the way you think leads to the way you feel.
mhm,
And the way you feel leads to the actions that you do, and those actions lead to the results you get. So feeling is that linchpin that brings it together. And if your programming's messed up and you're thinking wrong, you're feeling wrong, so now you're doing the wrong actions, and that's why you're not getting the results you want. But that linchpin in the middle is your feeling. So what lights you up? And
mhm.
then how do we reprogram you to stay in that lane?
Right.
So, you said some amazing things, and people have got to be sitting there going, hey, I want to know more about you. And the first piece that they need to know more about you is that you got to get your book when it comes out. So tell them about this book that's coming out.
Yes,
You told me a
yes.
little bit, and I'm like, I can't wait to read it.
Yeah, so it's like 30 to 60 days. It's called Burnout to Brilliance. It's going to be on Amazon and hopefully some other places as well, but definitely on Amazon, called Burnout to Brilliance. And it is really for people that are looking to, they feel burnt out and they're like stuck. They just feel burnt out, but they're not quite sure where to start. Maybe they've been doing all the things. Maybe they've been successful and they've got the business side of it figured out, but they just feel unfulfilled and they're stuck. And it's like, okay, I'm in my midlife. How do I make that pivot and make that shift so I feel lit up every day?
Hmm.
And that's really what I do. And that's really what the book is about. I talk a little bit about my accident in there. I talk about how I started to get on a real fast track to do the things I wanted to do now because you just never know. I mean, we see it all the time. We see things happen where people are not able to fulfill their dreams. And I don't want to be on that performance hamster wheel, right? So I'd love it if people find my book and give me a review. I would absolutely love that. DanaFlanagan.com is my website, so you can find it there as well. I'm on all the socials under my name, Dana Flanagan. Instagram is Dana Flanagan Official. And I love to hear what other people have going on. So maybe there's some potential for collaboration. Whatever I can do to help people figure out who they are in midlife and where they're going because it's a really tough place to be. A lot of people's kids have gone off to college. A lot of people are now maybe they're, a single, they're living alone now. Maybe they're, their spouse, they got divorced or somebody passed away. So it's a place where a lot of people are rediscovering themselves more than ever. And that age group from 45 to 55 for women is where the most millionaires are going to be coming from in the next couple of years. That statistic. So there's a lot of high achieving women out there that are keeping themselves small because they feel like they fit in that box of being the wife that drives the kids around to soccer, or, some other role that they have been put in that they
Mhm.
feel they can't exit out of.
That's awesome. So just a couple things, we're going to make sure all the ways to find Dana will be in the show notes below. But one real quick question about this book that's coming out. If they go to Amazon right now, can they pre-order it?
It's not, it's supposed to, you have to have the book cover done, which I just finished. I'm hoping a couple weeks on there, but they will
Okay.
be pre-ordered. Yes.
Tell them a little bit about your social media work that you do and the class you have, because
Sure.
that is one thing that we talked about earlier that everyone listening needs to go check this out.
Yeah. So I do a lot of keynote speaking on social media, branding, and confidence. Social media has been the number one catalyst for all of my businesses. Exposure and visibility is everything. So through the years, I started when it first, really when Facebook first kind of came out, I started promoting my real estate business on there. That's how I grew my business so quickly. And through the years, I've just built massive visibility on social media. It has nothing to do with how many followers you have, has nothing to do with how many likes or comments you have. You do not need to go viral. What you need to do is learn how to put your posts. You need to create valuable content that the algorithm places in front of the audience that you want to get in front of. So when you're making social media to monetize it, like if you just want to post pictures about your dog, go for it. But if you want to actually make money and drive people to your business, you need to put yourself in front of the audience that you need to be speaking to. So when you're creating your social media, your reels and your stories and your posts, you're creating those for your audience, not for you. So the algorithm's going to pick up certain words and certain things that you're saying or that are in your video or your reel to place it in front of the audience that they think it should be in front of for the engagement. So the whole idea of social media does three things: gets you in front of the right audience, starts a conversation, and drives people into your DMs for conversion. So those are the three things that you want to think about. But there's so many other things that go into that. And I have a course called Standout Social, which is also on my website, that teaches
Mhm.
you the basics of how to build the proper social media post. It's $197. It's a self-paced course, but it shows you how to edit reels. It shows you how to create valuable content with a hook that's going to stop the scroll, where you're going to have that valuable content and where to place that on the actual post, and how to have a call to action. Because if you're not telling your audience what you want them to do, they're just going to look at it and go, oh, that's interesting, scroll by. You need to actually tell them on every single post what you want them to do, and you need to lead them. Your audience wants to be led to a solution that solves their problem. If they can understand the transformation that you provide, they are going to be interested in what it is that you have to offer. If you're just throwing up motivational posts and you're information dumping, people are not going to buy from you. I always say selling is repelling. We want to attract people into our DMs. That's what I've done. That's how I built all my businesses. And that is actually what I train and coach people on. So if you have a business that's struggling, you're not sure how to be visible online, that is something that I teach. And that also can be through group coaching that I provide, or individual personalized coaching to you and your business.
And I will say this to everyone out there. If you have a business that isn't struggling, but you haven't leveraged social media to its fullest, you still need to talk to her. So get out there and still get to her. So we'll make sure that the links and everything to your social media class in the notes below and in the comments, so you guys can get out there and check that out. But please do that. So Dana, this conversation, it hits deep because it really reminds us that success isn't just about what we build.
Mhm.
It's all about who we're being while
Right.
we build it.
Mhm.
And that was a part of the year. So it really hit me deep in that area because that's where our alignment kind of comes in. So if this conversation, if what we talked about today resonated with you out there, share it with someone, get this out there, get this to other people that can help. Because like Dana said, it's not, we don't speak because we say what we want to say. We speak and we get out there because we're trying to talk to what it is you need. And I believe that what Dana just shared in her story, someone out there sitting there going, wow, she sounds a lot like me. And if she did it, why can't I do it too? So if you're ready to win, get this in your image, rewatch this, and love you guys. Appreciate you being a part of this, and make sure you connect with Dana and get her book.
Thank
Thanks
you
so
for
much, everyone.